this message. I was told to deliver this message.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Apologize for the technical difficulties. We are live, so Assalamu alaikum, family. It's your brother Landon X. We got to psych you out a little bit right there. But as you can see, this is Revolutionary Relationships.
That's right.
And as always, right above my head, you can see the topic and the title. You read that correctly. Courtship versus the world. Courtship versus the world. And we're going to get into exactly what we mean by that. It's also a brief description right above our heads as well. And just keep in mind, make sure everybody chiming in, assalamu alaikum, make sure that you're sharing. Share, and share alike. And shout out to the entire NationTown family. But let me go ahead and start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the most merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever, plus 1,000 days. As far as I'm concerned, I further bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his messenger, with all due respect and love and gratitude to Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace be upon him, who revealed the Holy Quran over the span of 23 years, 1,400 years ago, to set off a renaissance all over the world. But the Holy Quran also promised me and you that a messenger would be raised in every nation. And you looking at yours right there, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. How do I know that? Because these two hands, Master Fard Muhammad and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, worked together to create this magnificent brother, divine leader, teacher, guide, criterion, discernment, discrimination, if you understand what that really means. I'm speaking of none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and in those three great names, I greet all of you in the words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. NationTown family, please let me know that y'all can hear us clearly and everything's straight on our end. But again, like I said, we are going to deal with courtship versus the world. And of course, I cannot forget this beautiful human being sitting over here to my right. I forgot her name though, so sister, could you remind us all who you are?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sister Shauna Joy X.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I greet you all in the greeting words of peace. But first, again, let me open up as my husband did. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us so mercifully and beautifully in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praises are eternally due. I further bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his exalted Christ and first begotten of the dead, and that the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is their divine mourner, teacher, soldier, student, servant, guide, Jesus, Son of Man, in our midst today. It is in those three great, holy, and righteous, most beautiful names that I greet you all in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu Alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. And like I said, we're going to deal with a heavy one today. Courtship versus the world. Avoiding or ignoring the influences and distractions of this world when you're trying to put together what we call a revolutionary relationship. For those not familiar with this segment, revolutionary relationships, we call it revolutionary relationships because there's no such thing as being a revolutionary if you are not committed to the process. And it is a process, and we're going to go into why it's a process, but the process of loving the Aboriginal black man, the Aboriginal woman, it is something that we have to relearn. It's one of the sciences that was taken from us, along with the science of warfare and the science of business. So you can't call yourself a revolutionary and you laying down with Becky or you laying down with Brad. You know, you better, you got to know what it's like to lay down with Daquan and commit to Daquan. You know, to commit to Hector. You know, to commit to, you know, Sister Shaniqua. You know, to commit to, you know, Gabriela. You know, Guadalupe. Whatever the case may be. But that's why we call it revolutionary relationships, and we touch on topics predominantly dealing with what comes before marriage. Me and my queen, we are married, you know, and we working through that, the beautiful, beautiful struggle of that divine combination. But we focus more so on what comes before that and leading up to marriage. And it's not because we're some kind of expert on the matter. This is absolutely a cyber cipher. So we encourage your participation, questions and concerns. But what we're dealing with is courtship versus the world, and how to approach choosing a mate in spite of all of the distractions, in spite of all of the the disfigurement of our minds as Aboriginal people over the last 300 to 400 years. How do we still build a nation together as an Aboriginal woman and an Aboriginal man in spite of all of that? And I'm not going to front. I'm not going to front at all. This was, in many ways, you know, inspired by some things that have happened in the so-called news lately. I ain't going to say no names. You know, we found ourselves a little entangled in some things. But we have a history. We have a history, a recent history, a modern history as Aboriginal people of being caught up in celebrity issues, not just drama that happens to celebrities, but a lot of times, since we are so destroyed to the knowledge of self, we gauge what marriage is based on what we see on television and what we see in celebrities and so forth. And we're going to get a little bit into that because we're going to break down, if it be the will of Allah, the actual process in which we've been destroyed. And it also explains why, you know, we're in the condition that we are, where we even look to these, in many cases, not saying that what I just brought up on the screen are phony people. They're actually beautiful people, our brothers, our sister. But, you know, they're put on a stage where they're made out to be phony. And we got to bring it back to reality when you're really talking about revolutionary relationships. But shout out to everybody chiming in. We got Brother Hakeem Muhammad, Sister Bernadette, Sister Ebony, Brother James Watts, Sherry Land Giles, Salam Alaikum. Brother Brandon X Clay, Salam Alaikum. Feel free to hit us up with questions and comments because we, like I said, this is an open class. It ain't about us lecturing y'all. Hell, we what they say in the Holy Quran, groping in the darkness.
That's right.
You know, just like everybody else. But, you know, we gonna, you know, teamwork make the dream work. So first and foremost, I'm going to start off with a question to this sister. I want you to be honest. I'm going to put you on blast a little bit.
Okay.
I want you to be honest and tell me, before you came into the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I'm going to answer the same question, the same thing we did when we was courting. We'd throw questions at each other, and then whoever asked the question, they have to answer their own question. But before you came into the teachings, and be honest, we didn't fall off the mother plane. How much did the world, and by the world I mean not only celebrities, but just friends, what you knew of friends and their relationships, what you saw on TV, what you saw on movies, how much of that influenced you when it came to dealing with the opposite sex and relationships in general?
Well, you know what? Actually, not much at all, really. My biggest influence when I was in the world and dating was what I saw with my family, my parents. And that was always what I wanted, even though my parents ended up divorcing. You know, they always had a good relationship, and when they were married, it was harmonious. We had a beautiful, loving household, and I think I mentioned pretty much, multiple times before that, me growing up as the only girl, I was a daddy's girl, so I was always with my dad and his friends and my uncles and my cousin and his friends. And being a daddy's girl, like being around my uncles, they would always kind of like, steer me on the type of, how I should be treated as a woman. And also, like I said, seeing how my uncles treated my aunts, my dad treated my mom, my grandfather treated my grandmother, and the structure of that family, especially with my grandparents, and I'm talking about both sides, still being together, and how those families were structured, and how my grandparents had such love and respect for each other. My mama, you'll go to her for something, she'd be like, go to your grandfather. So I always saw them as the criterion as how to be treated. And that, I didn't have a lot of female friends at all, especially I didn't have any friends until I came into 8th grade. And, we weren't like most of the females. We weren't dating and doing other things.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So you mean to tell me that all of your mates, your father and your uncles all approved of every brother you was dating? They were all congruent with your parents and all congruent with your father and your uncle?
With the exception of one. I'm not so not lying.
Okay, so my point is this.
Yes.
Was there any, and you got to go deep. I kind of caught you off guard with this question. But you got to go deep. Do you think there was any influence whatsoever before the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that you had from the world when it came to your concept of what's attractive to a
Well, yeah. Like I said, with the exception of one, I was blessed really to have really good boyfriends, that weren't ratchet and, doing stuff. But like I said, with the exception of one, that came into, I was raised middle class, we were born and raised up in the city, and then we moved out to the suburbs when we were like in our earlier years. So I was raised like middle class, and I won't lie, I went through a little part of my life where I wanted to, kind of walk on the wild side. So I did date, like I said, with the exception of that one that was
always that
took
one.
made me other than self, I would say.
Okay.
And I walked on the wild side, and like I said, that was a I just wanted to see what it was like on the other side of the fence, I guess you would say.
The other side of the fence.
It was wilding. Wilding.
All right.
So that's what I'll say.
All right. Well, since we've heard from Shauna X. Cosby, Huxtable, Shauna X. Huxtable, we're going to go to good times now. I have to say that, just like she said, the males in her family influenced her a great deal. I was influenced a great deal by the women around me. But I grew up a hip-hop fan. I grew up loving action movies. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, but I would be lying if I said that there was absolutely no influence in this world as to what, attracted me and caused me to say, okay, that should be my girlfriend, or that's who I want to date. I remember in high school, there were 2 females, and one was absolutely, my personal type. And then the other one is just what I kind of thought I should be with based on images that I saw on TV. Everything from her skin complexion. She was black, don't get it twisted, but her skin complexion to other little things, and also the influences from my classmates. Oh man, you and so and so would make a great couple. And that going to my head and making me think, oh, okay, yeah, let me go through that. Because that's kind of what you see in Hollywood, and that's what you see, with celebrities. A lot of times, some of these relationships are not even genuine. It's just, okay, I'm this rapper, and okay, you're this pretty female. So, are you this model, or you're this actress? So it's just natural that we have to, and it turns into this high school mentality. So in high school, there were times where I found myself like, wait a minute, this sister is not even really my type. And I'm miserable, just even trying to talk to her. And when I was successful in talking to her, there was no, I guess you could say, any type of, comfort in it. There was no comfort. And then I realized that when I would approach the one that I really was attracted to, then I felt that comfort because it wasn't based on some image that was thrown in my face. And that's what we're going to get into. We're going to get into how these outside images, sometimes it's subconscious. Sometimes we think this is my type, that is my type. How do you know?
Right. And you know what, I actually, now that you mentioned that, no, in high school, I did have a type. All of my boyfriends were in high school.
All of them?
Shut up.
Go ahead.
My boyfriends in high school, they did follow a whole type.
Okay.
And this was the light-skinned, mixed,
all right.
pretty boy type, all in high school. And then come college years later on, and it probably did coincide with, we're always blacks, we're always in this bait and switch thing, going back and forth, where, oh, now dark-skinned dudes are in, you know what I'm saying? And then I started dating dark-skinned dudes. So on that, yes, because that was that era, light-skinned pretty boys were in, and that was
the era.
That was the type that, I followed, that my boyfriends fell into at that time. To Allah. Now,
according to Tyler Perry movies, that era never ended. I am dark-skinned and I am bald. So I hate you and I hate Jesus. That's it. Unless you watch the Boondocks,
you won't get it.
You won't get what we just said. But in all seriousness, the point I was trying to get to is that we all have to deal with these subliminals that are constantly dropped on us, right, whether we like it or not. And one of the biggest obstacles that we face as Aboriginal people trying to approach marriage and trying to build a nation, with our families, is that so much of what's happened over the last 40 to 50 years has broken up our communities to the point where we really don't know what a real black man looks like, where we really don't know what a real black woman looks like. Now, black men, almost all of us grew up with our mothers in our life. You have sisters, according to statistics, about 30% of sisters are like my wife, and they grew up with their father in their family. But then when you include divorce and things like that, it goes up to about 90% of sisters are in households where their father is not there in there with them. And when you consider all the distractions, which are at an all-time high, keep in mind there was a time when a middle-class household, regardless of race, where they were making decent money, they had 3 channels on the television, 4 channels on television, ABC, NBC, CBS, and then a public access channel like PBS. And that was it. That in the radio. And now you can go into somebody's household who's on public assistance, who's not even gainfully employed. And not only do they have about 200 to 300 channels on their television, but they also have a cell phone in their pocket that has access to the World Wide Web, which is essentially these days access to everything. You can pull up any TV show, anything, that you want to pull up, good and bad. So now the only thing that's really consistent in our households is the media influence. And keep in mind, the media, 98% of it is influenced and constructed by our enemy. Now, another thing that we have to come to terms with, if you were born within the last 50 years, you are in the first black generation or first Aboriginal generation really ever that did not value marriage. I'm gonna say that again. Ever. Because keep in mind, we got married in slavery. Despite the fact that our sister in slavery sat there and watched us get the skin ripped off our back with a whip, we saw our wives, our women in slavery, get treated like a plaything by the master. We still found it in our heart and our soul, to want to be married, to want to be an item, to want to come together. So this is the first generation, the last 40 to 50 years, the first generation where the women are like, I ain't tripping on marriage. The brothers like, no, I ain't tripping on marriage. I want to be a player for life. And then we come up, and then we might get into a relationship, and it goes 4 or 5 years, and we do all the things that married people are supposed to do, but there's no commitment, and then we both submit. We act like it's a submission. All right, I'll marry you. All right. And that's what almost all of our marriages today are, is just these submissions against our will, because an actual righteous marriage is not advertised almost anywhere in the media. So we fighting up against a monster that really our parents and grandparents can't really talk to us about, because they don't know what it's like. Even your grandma, if she had a television, or if she had the radio, if she turned it on, TV shows as we know them today existed on the radio before they were on TV. Literally. There was a Batman and Superman show that children listened to on the radio. There were sitcoms that they listened to on the radio. Look at the old sitcoms, Father Knows Best, all those kind of shows. It was a complete family, and the wife was a proud wife. She proudly cooked. She proudly did domestic duties. So every woman who saw that grew up with that as an idea, like, oh, that's what I should be. And the man was hard working. He took care of his children. And brothers and men looked at that and said, oh, that's what I should be. So this is the first time in our history, slavery included, where coming together as man and wife is not only passe, like she mentioned how light-skinned brothers was in. Marriage has been out in our community. It's been out of style for at least the last 40 to 50 years. Some of y'all might have hindsight 2020. You might think that, oh yeah, back in my day, even if your day was 88, which is ridiculous, that you would think 88 was a perfect time for black people. You might think that your time or your younger years, that things were that much better, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't, and the numbers prove that. So what we're going to get into is that battle that we're fighting, and we're going to break down that actual fight and how that process has broken us down. Now, shout out to everybody.
Shout out to Miranda, my best friend from high school. See, Miranda can vouch for me. She knows.
We were
good. We weren't like the rest of the folks.
All her boyfriends were perfect. I understand.
I didn't say perfect, but they weren't wilding like.
Yeah, okay.
Let me going down.
All praise due to Allah. Shout out to Jean, Lynette Peak, Brother Lakeem Muhammad. Who else we have? All praise due to Allah. Sister TC Alamu. You asking about our next episode? Here we are. All praise due to Allah.
For you.
And TC says, bring back sacredness in marriage. I believe you on that one. I'm with you on that one. I'm absolutely with you on that one. Before we break down the process that got us to where we are, Sister Shonda Joy, could you just give us a little bit more of your personal insight on how things are today as far as the perception, not just your perception, but just the overall perception of marriage?
It's funny because I kind of have a different view just from what I've been seeing with. It started actually with my brother's friends. I was never the girl. I was a tomboy, so like I said, was with all the guys, and so I never grew up myself like, oh my God, I'm gonna get married and have children and all that jazz. Like that really did not hit me until my 30s, right before I came in the nation. So, but it was really funny watching my little brother, his friends growing up. My brother's 4 years younger than me, and watching him and his friends grow up, and his friends getting married and starting families, and then watching people around me, my best friends and people in my high school, like getting married and having beautiful families. That was a beautiful thing for me to see. I didn't understand it, and like people wanted to marry me, and I was like, whoa, we're 20 something, who does that? So it was a beautiful thing to see that for me, but what I started to notice was that it seemed like this generation, like my husband was speaking of, we're getting married, but for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? It seems like so much of the focus goes into a marriage, just the show of being engaged, and that's why we're seeing. I'm sorry, love, say that again.
You mean a wedding? The
wedding, excuse me. Thank you. Just the whole pageantry of it, and just to be like, oh, I'm engaged, and update their status, and that's, I believe, why we're seeing so many females proposing to men. Like, where did that come from? Kill yourself. Like, I'm sorry, don't kill yourself, but that's like so whoa. It's not, if you are with someone, as we know the nature of things, and we're just so going against the nature, going against the grain of things, that it's not, I believe, from the things that I've been seeing, and not that I have not seen I have my best friend Miranda has been married for, oh my gosh, at least 10 years, 2 beautiful children. My cousin is going on his 15th year, one beautiful daughter. So there are very beautiful examples, especially in our age group, in our generation. But some of the things that we are seeing, that I have been noticing, is that we are jumping into marriage for the wrong reasons. So much goes into the pageantry of the wedding, but then once we hit a rocky patch, all that time, money, energy, and effort that you put into getting married, why don't we put that into staying married? Why don't we flip it, and before we even get married, let's put that same energy and effort into making sure that we are going into the right marriage with the right individual.
Absolutely, I agree 100%, and we're going to touch on that before we get out of here. So we're going to break down the chronology, really, of what exactly happened to us. Now, let me frame it like this. For those of you who have any kind of understanding, but you should at least have a basic understanding of how, agriculture works. The first thing you do is you plant seeds. You till the land, and then you plant seeds. And then really God has to, or a God has to bring about the conditions, the weather, the climate that causes those seeds to germinate and bring forth. So let's go back. Let's go back in time a little bit. We're going to start off with slavery. See, there were seeds planted in slavery. They didn't germinate immediately, but it was seeds planted in slavery. First of all, it was the way the black man was broken. And he wasn't just broken. They wouldn't just take him out back, in a shed somewhere and beat the hell out of him, cut his foot off, castrate him. Many of you have heard now about buck breaking. No, when they did it, it was just like you saw on the movie Roots. It was in front of the entire plantation. There were 2 times on the plantation where slaves got a break. You know, like you go to work today, you know, they give you at least 2 breaks. In slavery, there was no breaks. You only got breaks under 2 circumstances. One, a major holiday, such as Christmas, maybe about 3. One, a major holiday like Christmas. 2, if there was some major event on the plantation, like massa was getting married. Sometimes they would even let the slaves celebrate a slave wedding. And 3 was when one of the slaves, particularly the male slave, was being whipped or castrated, a buck broken. They would line the slaves up like you see right there in the background. They would usually have the sisters up front. Make sure the sisters have a front row seat so they can see the black man get destroyed. So that was one of the seeds. That was the seed on the brother's side. Then on the sister's side, the sister was obviously taken advantage of by the master. Now check this out. A lot of times, and there's a scene on Roots. Follow me on this. It's a scene on Roots that a lot of people sleep on, and it goes over a lot of people's head. It's in the book, but not so much in the new version that just came out. Hold on for a second. But there's a scene on the movie Roots, where Kunta Kinte sees another sister who's also a slave, who he started to have a liking with, and then he's about to escape from the plantation, and what he sees is that female slave and her mother get walked to the slave hand's quarters, not even the slave master. What you see right here is the slave hand. The slave hand was usually a poor white Irishman, a poor white trash that was paid to be the overseer of the plantation. And he saw this girl he liked being walked to the slave hand's quarters to where he lived. And she was basically passing her daughter off to him. And when her daughter was hesitant and didn't want to go in, she talked to her daughter and said, "Don't you want that winter coat that you've been talking about so much? So if you're going to get that winter coat, you need to go on in there with that man and let him do what he's going to do. And maybe things will be a little bit better for our family." So that's the kind of thing that we went through in slavery. But those were the seeds that were sown. Those were the seeds, because it didn't immediately germinate. Even though sister saw brother get emasculated. Brother saw the chastity of his woman be ripped away. We still found love for each other. We weren't sitting around picking at each other. Well, men do that. Well, women do that. Well, men do that. It wasn't none of that on in slavery. We knew we needed each other. We knew we didn't stand a chance in this wilderness without each other. That's something that's different from today. But those are the seeds. But then the weather changed. Then we got a little bit of germination going on, and those wicked seeds started to blossom. The women's lib movement. The women's lib movement was something that was one of the germinations of the seed, where the white woman's movement of trying to get equality with her white man who ran all the businesses, who ran the world. She wanted an office right next to his. So in order to help boost up her movement, she convinced the sister that the same fight she was having was her fight, right, which was a lie. So they locked arm in arm in protest. Look familiar? Now this is from the 60s and the early 70s, but we see the same thing today. That's what was done to our sisters. What were they doing to the brothers around the same time? While they were telling the sisters that you don't need no man, women's lib, be a strong black woman, you're independent, you don't need no man. They was telling the brother, you need all the women you can get. Not to take care of them, not to be a real husband to them, but just to be a Mac, just to be a pimp, just to be a player. Just get your money up, just get that bag, and you'll have all the women of all colors just flocking over you. So these were the messages that they were sending to us as the weather to germinate the seed. Now, what led after that? Then it really started getting real. The prison industrial complex kicked in, where now today there are more black male slaves more black male prisoners than there were slaves in the year 1800. Crack cocaine kicked in. And we all know, if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s like myself, you know how that just ravaged our communities. And all this time, through all of this, keep in mind, our families are completely falling apart. Then we got hit with Reaganomics. Reaganomics, for those that don't know, Reaganomics is where Ronald Reagan actually convinced Americans, black and white, that if you just keep voting for him, he's going to make the richest 1% of America so rich that eventually some of that money is going to trickle down to you. So that's exactly what happened. The first part actually happened. The rich got richer, but it never trickled down. I'm still waiting on that trickle down, because the poor got poorer. And then what did that cause? That caused a mad dash, because we wanted to be like our white counterparts. So we did anything we could to get richer, to get more money. So then they started to play another image in our face of the gangster, of the thug. Listen, I love NWA. I'm a hip-hop baby. I was raised on hip-hop. But I'd be lying if there wasn't an image that was pushed on us. Most of the members of NWA weren't even dope dealers. Ice Cube went to college. Dr. Dre was just a brother that loved music. You know, old school music to be exact. DJ Yeller had no connections to the streets, but that image was pushed hard on us, and it continued all the way into the 2000s. This image of a thug, of a so-called bad boy. Another thing that you didn't see in slavery, you know, women were attracted to a man that took care of his responsibilities, not somebody that was running around chasing dead slave masters on money and doing anything he had to do, even if it meant selling poison to his own people. So all these images, all this propaganda was the weather that germinated those seeds. So here's where we are right now, Sister Shauna. Our home is broken. Our pockets are broken. Our communities are broken. The trust between the man and the woman is broken. And the only thing in the house that's still working is that cell phone, the internet hookup, and our televisions. So now, like our lessons say, we've been made blind, deaf, and dumb. So now we're blind and we're groping in the darkness. The black man is trying to figure out what a woman is. He doesn't know, because he just went through that tornado of events that I just showed you. The black woman is looking for a man, but there's nothing around her that's really telling her and really putting it in her mind constantly what a man is. And we can say, oh, my parents, oh, my uncle, all of this. How much time did you spend with your parents? How much time do you spend on the internet? How much time? The average movie is an hour and a half. When's the last time you had an hour and a half conversation with your parents? Especially in your formative years. A lot of us, when we were teenagers, we thought our parents were our number one enemy. I don't care what kind of household you grew up in. You thought their only purpose on this earth was to stop you from having fun. So you spend more time talking to your friends, more time watching BET, MTV, on all of that. So that's where we are right now. That's where we stand right now. I want to encourage everybody, hit us up with your questions and comments. I see all the questions and comments. All praises due to Allah. Sister Sherry Land Giles says, no trust with high school brothers who played games on sisters to disgrace them by raping them when they were young women. That's an issue that we deal with young black men who are confused. She said it's called running the train. I heard about that. I put it like that. That's real, you know, because that's what we saw. Remember, those slavery seeds started to germinate in our generation. They didn't really germinate 70 years ago or 60. Remember, right out of slavery, we built Black Wall Street. We built all those black towns and other places like Rosewood. I think it's one in Virginia, one in North Carolina. We got to building. As soon as we got out of slavery, we were going to Congress. We were putting our families together. That's back when you had them old school families of like 20, 30 children. all save daddy, all save Baba. She was just popping them out, and brother was going to work every day and putting it together. So the seeds are not really germinating until now. So now that we got a good look at that process, Sister Shana, if you want to comment at all on, how you saw that process, whether it affected you or not, did you see that and did you recognize it for what it was when you were growing up?
You know what, I guess you could say I was a little sheltered, so I didn't see a lot until I was older. Cause like really, I mean, my mom, both my aunts were teachers, and my family was really close knit. That's why I didn't have friends. I was always with my family. I didn't need nobody but my family. So until like until college, I literally thought everyone like lived the same type of life as us. Like, okay, so mom's home, because she's a teacher. So both my aunts, my mom and my two aunts, they're teachers. So they get home from work at a decent hour. They cook and they clean. House was never dirty. We never had to go out and, sit at a McDonald's and all that jazz. So, and we would go on vacations every summer and every spring break and this, that, and the other. But so that's what I thought was the norm. And then, be quiet. But then, when I went to college and, got to experience, people of other walks of life, and I saw like, oh, okay, well, yeah, it's a bit different in other households. So one of the main things that stood out to me was, and just even with experience with friends that I came across later on in life, was the influence and the impact that their mothers did or did not have in their life really blew me away. Because even my mom and myself, we had a really good relationship until I came back from college, and it was like, you can't have two queens in a house in one castle. But we never had the type of relationship where like, my mom is kicking me out, you won't let me stay with me, pregnant, and I can't even have no type of assistance from my family. That's the type of things that I saw when I got older. And I think a lot of that contributes to the fact that, like my husband brought up, that not Black Power movement, but the women's live movement. It really took the woman, especially the Black woman, out of the mindset of her true role as a mother, a comforter, a counselor, a domestic scientist, and put the mind in that, oh, I want to be in the boardroom with my man. Well, and not even your man, Black woman, because your man wasn't in the boardroom. Wow. I want to be in the boardroom with the white man. So it took the mindset of actually being a nurturer and a mother. We didn't even want to have children anymore. So I think that's where I started to see that, children weren't growing up with the same nurturing and protection and consolation that I did, because a lot of women at that time didn't even want children, and then so they have children, and now you don't even want them. You're not there to even take care of your children. Now we're seeing a lot of the children with the grandparents. I'm seeing girls my age who don't even have relationships with their mom. Like, what do you mean you don't talk to your mom? I couldn't grasp that, because 75% of the work is with the woman, because we raise up a nation. You're the wife, or the woman is the first teacher, nurse, designer, everything in that house to that child especially. And that was taken away from us. We allowed somebody to take that away from us. We took it away from ourselves. And so I think that's where a lot of that mindset of independent womankind came in, from like our generation, and not even not seeing a Black man in the house, but not even wanting to, because the father's not around, and then you're talking jazz about the father and Black men in general. And then even if the mother is around, it's what's the time frame looking like? You're picking your children up from daycare and then bringing them back home and then slapping like a TV dinner in their face. So we're not getting the intimacy, and that's why we're seeing that with these children nowadays. How are women allowing their children to get jumped off on by their boyfriends? You're not even there. You're pushing your children off on your boyfriends, but that's some of the things that we experienced. as we were growing up. So,
Right.
yeah.
And furthermore, one thing we got to look back on slavery again. The slave master always used a tool who was always a slave to help push his propaganda. If you've seen the movie or know anything about Nat Turner or the movie Birth of a Nation, you know that at first Nat Turner became a Negro preacher, a slave preacher. And he was so good at it and so successful that they moved him from plantation to plantation to help teach the little Negro slaves how to be better slaves. That was the tool that the slave master used back then. And he successfully used it later on, even after the Emancipation Proclamation. But now he's moved on. He's moved on from the Negro preacher. They're still programmed to be apologists for the white man, but it's not because the white man is really pushing them out there. He doesn't push out the Negro preacher anymore like he used to. What he pushes out now is the celebrity. That's the new Negro preacher.
Right.
Because he's the one that signs their checks. Very few of them are 100% independent in what they do. So he signs their checks. He decides who gets the radio play. He decides who gets on these little, corny reality shows. He pushes that, so he also controls the narrative in our community. Because like I said, everything else is broken. Everything else is broken. Even like my wife is saying, even for a sister who grew up in the suburbs, who grew up, Huxtable style, as I like to call it, if she has an attraction for a black man, it's only going to take her about 2 to 3 relationships before she finds out that everybody wasn't raised like her. And then she's watching television and she's in hip hop culture and everything. So now she's finding out, she saw Baby Boy. So now she's finding out, oh, okay, I have to take care of my man. My man, I can't expect him to actually take care of nothing and none of that. I got to be the one to take care of him. And then she almost approaches it like a pet owner. I got to feed him. I got to clothe him. And as long as I get to carry him around and hug him and let him lick my face every now and then, that's what I need to do. So now you got a situation where we're following what these celebrities do, because now the celebrity is the new God. They're the new God figure in our lives. Everybody's turning atheists now. Nobody wants to go to church. Nobody wants to go to the mosque. And the devil realizes that. The enemy realizes that. So is he just going to give up and let us take over? No. He's going to go in our straight path, whatever path we headed to. So now he's in hip hop. Now he's in your reality shows. Now he's painting this BS picture of what a man is and what a black woman is. And now you got brothers out there chasing it. That's why even somewhat intelligent brothers are sitting on Instagram right now, falling for what they call thirst traps. Because that's what he sees on television. And he's not even looking for a righteous sister. The minister touched on that. How men of this world are not looking for a righteous woman because they're not being trained for her to even catch his eye. So that's the condition that we're in right now. We're going after something in the dark where we don't even know what it really looks like because it's just not enough examples. Even like I said, even if you grew up in a decent family, you got to break down the time and the hours. Your decent family, your father, he worked like a god. I don't want to say work like a dog. He worked like a god. Your wife, your mother, she was doing what she had to do. But then all that time, were you just sitting at the door waiting on mommy and daddy to come home? No. You were sitting in front of BET. You were sitting in front of HBO. You were sitting in front of your phone. You were sitting in front of this, sitting in front of that. You had your face in a magazine. And then all of a sudden, this world was raising you. And that's why we have this situation where anything could happen with a Jada Pinkett. Anything can happen with a Beyonce. And the thing about it is that it completely, my issue with it, because white people deal with celebrity gossip. They frame that whole world. So they deal with celebrity gossip and all of that. But it's like a sidebar for them. From 8 to 5, from 9 to 5, they control the world. And then when they clock out and when they come home from their corner office, when they come home from being your boss, when they come home from being the principal of the school, when they come home from being the tenured professor at your college, when they come home from being your doctor, your lawyer, then they kick their feet up and they laugh at celebrity foolishness. But with us, celebrity foolishness completely consumes us. It consumes us. Why? We've been talking about high school. It's because we now have a high school mentality. We are still the slave master's child. So since we're thinking like a child, talk to a 15-year-old about relationships. And he or she will get to talking all day, even though they don't really even know much about relationships. They'll get to talking about boys, and he'll get to talking about girls, and they be doing this, and then ask them, okay, that's cool. What you think about Donald Trump's foreign policy? I mean, I heard Trump was bad. Okay. What you think about race relations in America? I heard it's messed up. Rest in peace to Ahmaud Floyd and them. And I'm not making fun of our little brothers and sisters. It's just that's the mind of a teenager. It's all about sport and play and petty relationship drama. It's not about adult things. So as adult black people, we get absolutely consumed by these celebrities because they're the new God. They're the new Jesus. They're the new Muhammad. So it's first on our mind. Even some of us who should know better. Some of us who were raised in the church, raised in the mosque. When the topic of Muhammad comes up, we kind of go through the motions. Topic of Jesus comes up, we kind of go through the motions. Somebody mentioned Jay-Z and Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, our ears perk up. Now we got something to say. That means we are operating on a childlike level. And we got to come up out of that before you even get into courtship. Now, before we go forward, this whole revolutionary relationship started off with us going through the courtship manual. And we're going to go through another segment of the courtship manual before we get out of here today. We're going to be on for another, I guess you could say 15, 20 minutes. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Shout out to Brother Ahmad. Assalamu alaikum, top soldier. Looks like we got a comment and question. Our brother Marcel Boyce says, and he pushes the Negroes who have degreed themselves online, lacking the proper approach to study, research, and erudition. That's real, brother. I think he had another comment. And the brother said, most black men are chasing the concocted facade of the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj image, beautifully and deceptively fashioned on the outside, but lacking knowledge and substance on the inside.
And you know what?
That's an absolute fact. Go ahead.
That is an absolute fact. And what happens is that, and this is not just for the brothers. This is for vice versa, the brothers and the sisters. We chase after this image that the white man has given us. And then when we get that image and we get dogged out, we get worn out, and we get played most over and over and over again, then we see what we did the show on a while back, beloved, the Diary of a, what was the name of the show? When the sisters and the brothers just get tired, oh, beloved, you don't recall? That show we did. The sister did the Diary.
Oh, the sister rant. Where she was talking about the slim pickings.
You can't find a good black man. You can't find a good black woman because we have not been searching for good black men. You haven't been searching for good black women. You've been searching for, like he said, the concocted plastic images. And then when you want a good woman or a good brother, are you good yourself? You're not going to attract that because that's not what you're putting out. And if you are to get it, what you're going to do is like the messenger said, if you find a no good, there's no such thing as a no good black woman because every no good woman was made no good by a no good man. You get that good woman, then because you are not good on the inside, you're going to turn her. And now the cycle continues. So we need to start working on self, and we need to start reflecting what we want in the world and not just physical. We need to check our minds. We need to check our spirit. and check our finances and check everything down the whole line so that we can reflect what we want and get that as well.
Absolutely. Now, NationTown TV, we don't just hit y'all over the head with problems. We also deal with solutions. So here we are, we're in a world, like I said, we're the first generation that shuns marriage. Plain and simple. My consensus of what I see, even statistics show this, black women are just not interested like they used to be in marriage. They're interested in having a mate. They're interested with having somebody to spend time with, but not necessarily a marriage. They're interested in commitment. They want a man to commit, but they're not really interested in marriage. Black men, same thing. So we're the first generation really ever of Aboriginal people who do not have a high value. Right now, marriage amongst us is, hey, if it happens, it happens. You know, it ain't something that we want to work toward. It ain't nothing. We are, our men and women, our dreams, check this out. Our dreams are more wrapped around marrying white people than marrying each other. What do I mean by that? I don't necessarily mean just a black man marrying a white woman or a sister marrying a white man, which is something that we see a lot more of today on both sides. But our dreams and our goals are just focused on marrying white people. When you marry somebody, what happens? You move in with them. You get closer to them. You develop bonds with them. You swap cultures. You swap experiences. So when you go through the hood and you ask somebody what their goals are, listen closely. What most of them are going to tell you, I'm trying to get whiter. I want to live in a whiter neighborhood. I want to send my children to a whiter school. I want to wear whiter clothes. I want to think whiter, talk whiter, move whiter. I want to get closer to white people. I want them to respect my life. I want them to know that my life matters. You know, I don't care if God knows that my life matters. I just want Brad and Becky to know that my life matters. You know, whatever they got, I want. You know, I just want to get closer to them. So now the marriage between the Aboriginal man and Aboriginal woman is really passé. We want to marry white people. We just want to get closer to them. So if that means me getting a big job or making a whole lot of money where I got me a white lawyer, a white manager, a white agent like these black male celebrities, and a sister, if she can just get that big corner office job where she's the only black face in the whole building, and if there is another black face, it's another sister or a homosexual brother. You know, so she wants to get, she can't wait to work for him. She can't help build his house. What is his house? His house is all of these Fortune 500 companies. She can't wait to help him build his world. We can't help white people build their world. So that's what we are right now. So we're going to get into actual solutions. How do we fight against that, given that so much of our culture and our identity has been broken up over the last 50 years? And before I get into that, you had something to say, sis?
Yeah, I was just, you were talking earlier about the subliminals. You know, what type of subliminal does that play on a child when they see, you know, their mother, their father, their parents neglecting them in their own household, but striving hard to work for this white man, and you know, I can't make your track meet because, you know, I gotta go to work. You know, never at home, can never put forth a good home cooked meal because they're always trying to work for the white man to keep up some type of image. And most of the times you will see, you know, I'm not gonna say most of the time, but often you will see a lot of families, women or families are putting forth all this effort to get this check or get the bag, as they say in the world, and that doesn't even go towards, you know, let's go on a family vacation. You did good in school. Let me get you those shoes that you wanted. Hold on just a moment, you guys. Sorry, nation business. But, you know, let me get you that shoes that wanted. But you building up yourself cosmetically. You know, you're living in a raggedy house. And you just, you know, you got your 9-inch nails done and your hair all down your back, but you're doing all of this to work for this white man and bring something back for yourself. You know, my husband said, you know, let's deal with some solutions. You know, the guy came and he gave us 6 words that if we followed those 6 words, we would rise up out of our condition overnight. Brothers, sisters, accept your own and be yourself.
Absolutely. And she brought up a good point, especially with the fact that never underestimate the influence that we put on our child. One of the silliest things that you hear in our households these days is when a black parent or Aboriginal parent says, "Do as I say, not as I do." That's one of the silliest things that we could say, because first of all, a child is a sponge, so they're constantly pulling in. And I'm speaking from the perception of somebody who used to be a child, not from the perception of a parent. So I'm talking as somebody that used to be a child. We are pulling on everything that we see. That's the only way a child learned how to walk. If a baby was born in a family where everybody was crawling and talking baby talk, that baby would never learn how to walk, and it would never learn how to talk. Where would it learn? Right. Even if they turn on the TV, everybody crawling and yama nama dada, and everybody's crawling on all fours, that baby will never get past the crawling stage. The only way it learned how to walk is because it got tired of waking up every day, seeing all these big adults walking on their hind legs, hearing them all communicate clearly with each other, reading things. So the curiosity and the thirst for learning with a child is at its highest point. That's why they say that's the best time to teach a child a second or third language, or to give them a musical hobby, like an instrument, like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan playing the violin. So when they see us, let me say this. It's been a lot of talk on social media about interracial relationships. Like it's a growing question of, should we even consider somebody conscious or pro-black if they're married to somebody that's not black? And we talked about that before on NationTown TV. But let me say this. This is going to sound a little strange coming from your brother, but just follow where I'm going with this. In our current condition as black people, and the way we bring our children up, we have no right to get mad at our sons or daughters when they bring home Brad and Becky. I'm going to say that again. We have no right to get mad at them. Because again, let's go back to what they grew up seeing. Baby, I'm gonna get you in a good school. And then when they get there, what do they see? White people. Baby, we're going to go to the good grocery store today. When they get to that grocery store, who do they see? White people. Baby, I'm going to get you some good clothes today. Whose name on the clothes? White names. White. They see you as the parents striving. You can put a message to the black man in their hand all you want to. You can talk black, blackity black, black, triple black all day. But when they see their parents constantly striving for whiteness, we even think whiteness is synonymous with success. Oh no, I'm not trying to be white. I'm just trying to be successful. You got fantastic black schools. My wife is a teacher with M.A.A.M.
That's right.
And M.A.A.M is not the only black independent education source. You just haven't heard of too many of the other ones because we don't support it enough. We want to send our child to a Catholic school, and we don't even ask the question, are we Catholic? Right. But when somebody suggests M.A.A.M, oh, I ain't no Muslim.
That's right.
So you can have success and still be rooted in your blackness. But when your child sees otherwise, just like a good child, when a good child sees their parents striving for something, that child sits back and thinks and says, man, I want to be the one that gets that for my parent. I want to be the one that achieves that for my mama. I see my mama struggling to get something. I see my daddy struggling to get something. I want to be the one that brings it home to her. So they say, oh man, subconsciously now, I saw my mama and daddy struggling to be white. Right. So I'm going to bring it home to her. I'm going to bring Becky home. They're going to be so proud of me. I'm going to bring Brad home. They're going to be so proud of me. And sometimes they are. The sister that married the so-called prince in Great Britain. I remember seeing Meghan Markle. I remember seeing pictures of the wedding. Why was her mama smiling harder than she was? This is her wedding day. And her mama was just back there, just Cheshire cat, ear to ear smile. You know, maybe it's just because her daughter was getting married. I ain't gonna, you know, maybe that's what it is. Or maybe that's what she raised her to do. You know, so with all of that said, let's talk about solutions. Shout out to everybody chiming in.
Yes, we have quite a few comments.
All praise due to Allah. Hit us with some comments.
Yes, we have Sister Lynette Muhammad. She said, I don't think those people know what marriage is, like reducing it just a piece of paper. Exactly.
That's real.
Because we go into it like, oh, but you know, if it doesn't work out, we just get divorced. So this is nothing. We just rip it up. My beloved sister Pamela K, top fan of the show and sharer, she says, I want to live where there's civilized black people. Teach. And she said, we have to start exercising our own force and power. Yes, indeed, brother. All praise belongs to Allah, beloved. And we have Brother Amari Abdullah Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, my beloved family. The black family comes first.
That's
right. Wa alaikum salam. Yes, sir. Most definitely.
All praises due to Allah. So now we're going to get into some solutions. And I want y'all to hit us up if you have any ideas for solutions. How do we break this curse? How do we work against what's been worked on us for the last 300 to 400 years, but especially the last 50 years? Well, first of all, I remember when I had an art class in middle school, and I had a black art teacher, you know, beautiful brother. He looked like Martin Luther King, looked like a darker skinned Martin Luther King, Mr. Ware. But, you know, and my art skills ain't on, you know, Sister Amina's level or my brother-in-law, Brother Rico a.k.a. Ahmad. But I got a really good education in that class because this is what the brother told me and what he told us. He said when it comes to art, the best way to get started is that you got to have what he called a visual aid. You have to see something and then try your best to draw it. And then it's kind of like training wheels for art. And then eventually, after drawing things that are sitting right in front of you, you'll be able to visualize things in your own mind and bring them to life on the page. And that really simplified it. I never became a great artist or anything like that, but it definitely made the process easier for me. When it comes to courtship and marriage, you got to do the same thing. You got to find a realistic visual aid. Now, this is what the enemy is putting up in our face. The worst parts of these brothers and sisters. The worst part. They don't show you a whole lot of the good part. I mean, keep in mind, Sister Jada's show almost exclusively deals with drama. It exclusively deals with the problems she's had. She's going into great detail about her struggles, you know, growing up without a father, her mama's struggles with heroin and all of those things. And I'm not saying she shouldn't talk about that. That's keeping it real. I feel on that. But the whole show deals with the absolute worst part. Remember what our teachers say, for those that know, settling on the worst part of their family. Same thing with these two. Have a beautiful marriage with beautiful children. They're successful and they done went through things, but all we really talk about or focus on is the worst part. The worst part. You know, my brother Jay-Z getting stole on in the elevator. That's all we talk about. So what we got to do to counterbalance that, we got to find better visual aids that are real and that are right there in our person. Either people that we know, or even if you don't know them, better examples. What do I mean? Well, here in Los Angeles, we have I'll start off just in the Nation of Islam in general.
That's right.
We have some really fantastic examples of married couples.
That's right.
And in the Nation of Islam, marriage is not just something you can do, it is pushed, it is promoted, it is encouraged. You know, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said that being married is 50% of your faith. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told the brothers that if you ain't married, you basically crippled. It's like you hopping around on one leg. We get clowned for being single in the nation. Shout out to my single brothers. Y'all know me. I go in, and where did I learn that from? I learned it from my regional student minister. Don't let single brothers just revolve around you and be around you. You know, try to hook them up. Try to always ask them, brother, when you gonna join the team? So you got to have visual aids. And I'm just gonna throw a couple at you, just a couple. We have one in Indianapolis,
Yes.
Indiana, a beautiful brother. Not only is he one of the stars of the nation, not only is he one of the most beautiful and dutiful students of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but him and his queen have been together for over 30 years. 30 years. I know they look like they only been on this earth 30 years,
right?
but they've been together for 30 years. Now, let's stop right there. It look like they having fun. Look like everything's perfect. Look like they just tiptoeing through the tulips. That don't mean they never had struggles. There was a time where my brother on the left, brother Nuri Muhammad, was homeless, where he lived out of the mosque. This brother at one point didn't have as they say, a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. It was actually her father, Sister Terry's father, from what Minister Nuri says, who was a sympathizer in the nation. So he had books and he had videos, and she was on fire about the minister and the teachings. It was her that introduced it to him.
Yes.
You know? And these are just, I'm basically showing you right now my uncles and my aunties in the nation. Some of us have actual kinfolk, actual blood relatives. They're not perfect. And it's because you have nearness to them and you know their imperfections. You know about that time they were separated. You know about that time that so-and-so found out about so-and-so doing so-and-so. So you think, oh, they're not perfect like I see on TV and whatnot, so I'm not going to pattern it after them. But they're still together and they still married. I don't know any negative details about these two. All I know is that they winning. That's all I know, and that's all I care. And then here on the West Coast, Mighty Muhammad number 27.
That's right.
Our beautiful Western Regional Student Minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad. And my beautiful sister, radiant sister, Sister Malika Muhammad, talented too. I think she made with her own hands almost everything she wears. She even makes clothes for her husband. And they've been through so many ups and downs, but they still together and they still happy and they still striving and they still working beautifully for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but most of all for Almighty God Allah. And like my wife said, beautiful children, believing children.
Family. Yes.
You know, so you got to look to real examples that ain't just on a movie screen, that ain't on some reality show and some foolishness. You got to look to men and women like this and look how they live day to day. If you listen to these brothers, if you listen to these two brothers when they teach, if you read the books from Minister Nuri Muhammad, and I plan on encouraging that brother on the right, my beloved brother, student minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad, I plan on encouraging him to write a book, because this brother's life, when you just scratch the surface of it, it's just, it really need to be a movie or a mini series or something. Yes. But when you listen to them teach, they're very forthright about their life. Right. They tell you some of the good, they actually focus on some of their struggles more so than their successes. So you want to be around people or listen to people who really lay down the real tracks for you, and all you got to do is keep focusing on the fact that they're still striving in their marriage. They still fighting, and they can still work a smile on their face. They can still go into the next day. That's what you got to do. You need visual aids. And the only way these two brothers are able to do what they do and build the beautiful families that they built is because of who raised them.
Come on.
Because of who raised them. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Mother Khadijah Farrakhan Muhammad. Again, they're very forthright about their struggles. When the minister resurrected the nation after it failed in 1975, this brother had 9 children and already countless grandchildren. Early in his life as a young minister, you know, he would bring home stale pastries to feed his family. None of the furniture in their house was new. It was all reupholstered from what he's found just sitting on the side of the road. They've been through it and they persevered. This man, I don't know a man on this earth who's hated not only by his natural enemy, the Caucasian, but also by his own brother that he loves more than he loves himself. And guess who has to comfort him and console him when he comes home with a back covered in daggers and knives? She got to do it. And she been doing it for over 60 years.
Yeah.
Not perfection. Not meaning they don't make no mistakes. They ain't never went through nothing. They didn't know. They persevered. So we got to pay attention to examples like this. If you understand what I'm saying. We got to have those visual aids. Now we got a question from one of the viewers that we're going to touch on real quick. The brother Jonas Simmons says, why does the nation say interracial marriage is a hindrance? When you read the Muslim program, and I'm going to let my wife touch on it as well, the Muslim program states that what we believe is that we believe that interracial marriage should be prohibited. Now, the minister has bear witness that love and attraction is a powerful thing. And you can be attracted to somebody who's not of your same race. In fact, I'm glad you asked that question, because another point I wanted to make about us learning to love each other is that when you actually see a black couple, whether they be a celebrity, no matter what's going on in their life, whether they be a striving minister in the Nation of Islam, no matter what you see, when you see a black man, an Aboriginal man, and an Aboriginal woman together in this world, in this age, what you really looking at is a minor miracle. A minor miracle. Because everything I grew up seeing in magazines, television, and everything told me not to love that. Everything that was fed to her in the media, in the white man's world, told her not to be attracted to me. So whenever an Aboriginal man and an Aboriginal woman come together, it's a minor miracle in this world. So obviously you're going to have those who succumb to that propaganda that a white woman is better, that a white man is better. And the reason why we believe that it is a hindrance, there's something missing, with all due respect, brother, to your question. There's a word missing at the end of it. Hindrance to what? What are you trying to do? Now, if you're trying to set off a revolution, if you're trying to build, the Aboriginal family, then marrying your open enemy is in direct opposition to that.
That's right.
Now, if you just want somebody to lay up with, or you just want to marry just anybody, then you well into your right to do that. Like the minister said, attraction and love is a powerful force. But if you are really about your people, and you really see the beauty in the opposite, like I said, it's a minor miracle. I understand it when I run into a black man who claims he don't like black women. That just means he hasn't had a visual aid. And two, it means that he just grew up seeing some of the same things I saw, the same propaganda, and he fell for it. So I understand. I understand if somebody who almost drowned or who was always told terrible things about the water don't ever want to go swimming. I agree. You got black households where black women are raising their children, telling them niggas ain't shh all day. Black women got their daughter between their legs and they got this red hot comb and going through her hair, hurting the little girl. She crying. Tender-headed is what we call it.
Have mercy on that ear.
And then her little brother walked through the living room. This is my own experience. Little brother walked through the living room and see that and say, damn.
Smell that.
Smell, you hear that snap, crackle, and pop? So that goes back to what we were saying earlier. So the little brother is thinking, well, why don't I just get a woman that don't need a hot comb? Who don't need a hot comb? Mama always talking that niggas ain't this, niggas ain't that. Well, little girl, she don't want a black man when she grew up. And the little black boy don't even want to be a black man when he grow up. That's where a lot of this funny style action come from. Let's just call a spade a spade. So it's a hindrance to building a black nation. Because unfortunately, whether you like it or not, everywhere they've gone, the Caucasian. This is just a fact that we got to deal with. Like it's a lot of facts black folks got to deal with. We got to stop killing each other. We got to stop hating each other. We got to learn more about financial independence. We got to learn more about our history. There's a lot of things we got to improve. But when you look at the Caucasian, you can't name one place on this earth that he's gone that he did not cause absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. So if you call yourself building a nation, you cannot let someone who has that kind of credit report, you know, like every time you try to get a car, you try to get a job, and they run your credit. Now, we don't all match our credit reports. Some of us are much better people than our credit report reflects. But let's face it, the credit report of the Caucasian spells 5 letters, devil. And if you don't agree with that, that's fine. Go about your business, you know, go about your life, you know, love who you want to love. It's a powerful force. But if you're in the business of revolution and building a black nation and building your family, you're going in direct opposition of that, because if you don't love your people enough to see the beauty in a black woman, and a black woman don't love her people enough to see the beauty in a black man, this ain't the route for you. If you see more beauty in a white woman or a white man and you willing to go that route, by all means, you know, and I wish you the best of luck. I have close friends. Me and my wife talk about a friend of mine in particular. I'm not going to say his name, that I went to college with. He was so pro-black in college, he made me look like Brian Gumble. I mean, he was so super duper pro-black. So super, and then on top of that, he was about as black as my hat, you know. And now, you know, he got a bunch of children that look like Steph Curry, you know. His wife, you know, looks like Karen. When I found out about it, I was happy for my brother, because I knew my brother personally, and I also knew that he was going through a lot back when, you know, when we were roommates. And, you know, when I ran into him and I saw pictures of his family, he looked happy. So I was happy for my brother. I didn't come at him like, man, how you married that? I was happy for him. Many are called, few are chosen. This life ain't for everybody. Everybody don't want to see the black man succeed. Everybody don't want to see the black family succeed. Everybody, doesn't matter. A lot of us we just want, you know, a moment of happiness for our own selves in this little short second of time that we on this earth. When you look at how old the earth is and how old existence is, it goes far beyond 6,000 years. That's how far this white man goes. But we talking about trillions upon trillions upon trillions of years. Our little time on this earth is not even a second compared to the grand wheel of time. So when you live your life for a generation that you won't even live to see, then you understand how, you know, sweethearting with the enemy can be a hindrance. But if you are only living for your own, you know, current comfort, which I can't say you wrong for wanting to do that, then, you know, marry whoever you want to marry. But I'm here to tell you, man, whether you're a black man who enjoys white women or a sister that enjoys, you know, white boys, y'all missing out. let me just say that it ain't no sacrifice for me to love the black woman. It ain't something that I'm fighting against. No. It ain't nothing. It ain't a sunrise. It ain't a diamond. It ain't a ruby. It ain't a sunset. It ain't a flower. It ain't a crystal. It ain't nothing in this world more beautiful than a black woman, especially when she's at her best and she's striving for her best. Nothing more beautiful in the world. But if somebody does not see it like that, I completely understand. How do you feel about that?
Yes, like you said, who is it a hindrance to? It's not a hindrance to the white race for you to marry onto ours, because for one, you're getting your seed into the hereafter, which is what y'all want to do, or they want to do. I don't know if the person who is right or not who answered the question in the first place, because those who are learned amongst you know that your time is up and you were only made for a reason in a specific season.
That's right.
So they marry on to us, or just pass their seed on to us, just to try and get themselves into the hereafter. Now it's a hindrance to us, because our unity is stronger than an atomic bomb. You marry on to the devil, to our enemy, you're taking away our allies, you're taking away our soldiers in this fight, because we are at war. And not only are you taking away our soldiers, because when you go into an interracial marriage, your allegiance goes to the most powerful race. We are down, blacks. We are oppressed, blacks. So that family's allegiance is not going to go to the blacks. It's going to go to the whites, because we always think of our own survival. It's about survival. Is the self-preservation is the number one factor of man to live. So you're taking away a black person whose allegiance should be to their nation, should be to their people, and now their allegiance goes to the white race, goes to your people. So you got more soldiers, and now what us, the blacks, in this war to survive and to take back this world that is rightfully ours, now we have to continue even more to fight against our own, to even get through to the white man first. We don't want to fight and kill our own, but we get at odds with each other when you marry on to the white race, because you're not going to be married to a white man or be married to a white woman, and then your brother, your sister talking about that, that's the devil, talking all types of jazz, and you're just sitting there, well, yeah, no, you're going to defend yours. So that is a hindrance against our struggle and our war to survive and to take back what is rightfully ours, because now we got to go back at odds with you all. And the brother mentioned in the comments, why are you marrying them? Is it because of love? And I'm not going to say that sometimes it's not. We're taught, we know that there are exceptions to the rules, but I personally believe that most of these interracial marriages is coming out of that black man saw it roots back to slavery. The black man saw the white woman in slavery, and your woman is hair looking all crazy on the side of her head. We stank. We're up here wearing denim and because denim wasn't what it is back now, and sackcloth, and the white woman is walking around clean, fresh, hair is done up, so he's lusting after her. The white man is lusting after the beautiful, voluptuous black woman whose hair defies gravity on her head and has curves and cushion, unlike his flat back woman, the white woman. So, what is your true motivation for even wanting to date? So if you all do date, and most of you have that impediment in your heart and in your mind for why you're really dating, or because, there ain't no black men around, so let me date this white man because he got money and all that jazz, you know what I'm saying? You're perpetuating a negative cycle that is going to work against the black man's and black woman's rise. So it is a hindrance to us for those interracial relationships. But I tell you one thing, you all, these interracial relationships, especially that white man trying to push his seed into the hereafter, all things work for good that love for those who love the Lord, because you're pushing out these Colin Kaepernicks, you're pushing out these J. Coles, you're pushing out, because the black man's seed, baby. You're pushing out Master Fadar Muhammad. His mother was a white woman, but we're not going to get into that. Don't try and use her as deceptive intelligence, people. Her devils were exiled out of her, exorcised out of her by the God. But, you cannot beat the God, because you are having these relationships and you're trying to get your seed into the hereafter, but you're birthing into the world these giants for our cause and the rise of the black man.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Sister Soldier. And let me, and like the sister said, and as we brought up, Master Fard Muhammad is first and foremost the product of the infinite energy of Almighty God. We believe that Allah God appeared to us in the person of this beautiful brother right here, who had a triple black father, and a Caucasian mother, a woman from the Caucasus Mountains. And so we don't have any hate for interracial relationships. We live in a time now where if you just don't believe in doing something yourself, then people say that you hate that thing, especially when you're black.
Right.
Nobody gives us the right to have a true preference. And one thing about me, I give that right to any brother, any sister. Whatever your preference is, I hope that it's genuine love. I hope that you just magically just ran into that Becky or that Brad, that Karen one day, and y'all just fell for each other. But we all know that 9 times out of 10, it was a situation
Right.
where you had that lust in your mind already, and you felt like it was a status symbol, or you were very upset with your own race. You were very upset. You went through a couple of bad relationships, or you thought all black men are this way or all black women are that way, which from a scientific survey standpoint is a terrible survey. Right. You 5 relationships and now you think you know every one of those people.
Right. Or a situation.
And if that's the route you're gonna go, then let's keep that same energy. Mm-hmm. If you had 4 bad experiences with 4 black men or 4 bad experiences with 4 black women, and you think black women are nothing or black men are not nothing, then you should understand us. When we repeat 600 to 6,000 years of history about this white man, countless white men, countless Columbuses, countless Washingtons, countless Hitlers, countless King Leopolds, and we say that the white man is the devil. So if you understand that, hey, you know, I've had some bad experiences, so I'm done with that side of the road, then you can understand why we can go through our 400 years of bad experience in this country and say, you know what, we're done with that side of the road. But by all means, go ahead, and if you want to love the other race, you know, all I ask is that you do it out of genuine, you know, random love. Don't go out just looking for a white man. See, that's how I know it's something else. Just looking for a white woman. Oh, I prefer white women. Okay, go ahead and do what you do, but just understand that the child that you have, like my wife insinuated, the child that you have genetically and scientifically will be a black child. And it's no guarantee, I got you, but it's no guarantee that that child is going to grow up, you know, with a connection to one side or the other. Because if y'all even live in a white neighborhood, that child is going to grow up looking a lot different than a lot of his classmates or her classmates, and it may build a rebellion in them. Mm-hmm. See, it's a lot of awkward conversations. I remember when the Colin Kaepernick situation went down, they went and interviewed his Caucasian mother, and she completely disagreed with him on what he was doing. So either way, it's going to come back to a black child because the black gene, the Aboriginal gene, is dominant and the Caucasian gene is recessive. So do what you're going to do. Right. You know, do what you're going to do, absolutely. But we have another question, but I believe my wife had a comment real quick. And, you know, we're going to deal with this question.
A lot of what we see with black women, when we date white men, it's situational. You know, you went to a school. The brothers aren't doing too much of nothing. You're studying PE, just trying to get along. You graduate top of your class. Black women are the highest educated, most learned in this nation, and you got a good job, but your man can't get into a good job. So you're in a workplace, you're living, you're around people that don't represent you. So to get to marry someone who is on the same stature, more times than not, you know, especially with what you represented in your workplace, because that's where we at most of the time. We give our time and energy to this white man. It's white men, and they stay lusting after us. So it's like a situational thing. You know, you might not even never thought about it, but hey, here comes Brad at the job. Cube's right next to mine, and you know he's saying some corny jokes and, you know, treating you with some kindness that you haven't felt. And then, you know, like my husband said, if you're going to be with whoever you be with, yeah, try and make it out of love. But if not, if you with that person for whatever reason, don't sit there and just because you dating white women or because you're dating black women to bash the other race. Well, F niggas and F black bitches, all that jazz. Now you can keep all that.
Absolutely. Now we have another question from my brother, let me find it, brother Conscious Kiran. I believe that's a brother. And he says, this is his question, say one found knowledge of self and the other doesn't want knowledge of self, and they are already married with children. Well, let me say this, brother Conscious. If we're talking about the man, and really if we're talking about the man or the woman, but if we're talking about the man who's found knowledge of self, see, knowledge of self is not trivia. If you ever played a trivia game, you know, when you answer the question, even if you know the answer to the question, it's something that you know, but you don't show. You know, what was the original name of this company, or you knew how many NFL teams were in the league, when it first started. That's trivia. That means it's information that's factual, but it's useless. You can have knowledge of self and reduce it to trivia if it's not shown in your day-to-day actions. If you really want your spouse to start to come over to where you are, then let your knowledge of self show in your day-to-day actions. Let that show in how you treat her or how you treat him. And then they're going to start noticing a difference in you. It's called the clean glass theory, or the clean glass concept that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave to us, where he taught us that you don't have to condemn a dirty glass. All you have to do is put a clean glass next to it, and the people will make the proper choice. So if you have a spouse, if you're in a situation where it feels like you're going somewhere mentally and they're not coming right along with you, don't condemn them immediately, because you're going down in a journey that you're going. But if you really want to call them to where you're headed, then call them in a way that's attractive to them. Be a better man. Or if it's the woman in this case, and I see situations like this all the time, where someone comes in to the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they already got a boyfriend, they already got a girlfriend, or they already married. And you'll always see them at the mosque, always see them soldiering. And it's like, where's your wife? Or where's your husband? Oh, well, he don't really. And you shouldn't go home every day hitting them upside the head with the teachings. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and the minister said, and those names mean nothing to them. But you are their wife. You are their husband. So if they see Farrakhan in you, if they see the messenger in you, if they see Master Fard Muhammad in you, they'll start to close ranks with you, and they'll quickly find out what was what produced that change in you, or what created that emphasis in you that's making you a better brother or a better sister. And then they're gonna, just out of being nosy, they're gonna be like, man, let me go to this place with this dude. Let me read the same books he read. Let me read the same books this sister's reading. So, that could be tough. That could be a challenge. If you already been married and you going somewhere mentally and it don't seem like they coming with you, but give them a reason to come with you. The reason why you might say, baby, I'm about to go to the movies, you want to come? She's going to hop up and come with you because she's been to the movies before. She's seen a good movie before. She's enjoyed herself at the theater before. So when you offered to take her to that same theater or to the movies, she's going to think back on all those positive experiences and say, yeah, baby, I'm with you. And if she's seeing a good example through you, eventually she going to ride with you. She may even surpass you. She might catch fire, or he might catch fire, and don't catch feelings when that happens, or if it happens. All of a sudden, right. They basically living in the mosque. They basically living with the struggle, not just in the Nation of Islam, but let's say y'all both get interested in anything. Y'all both get interested in the Black Panther Party, whatever. And now all of a sudden she got more guns than you. And that's beautiful. But it started with you being a good example for them. I believe we have another question.
Yes, we have. I'm going to go over some comments first, and then we can close out with the question. Oh, man. So let's.
And I want to go over some stuff from the courtship manual.
Okay, yes,
as well.
right. Brother Marcel X. Boyce and the Nation of Islam is the only organization that deals justly and righteously with the reality of interracial relationships. Yes, sir.
Right.
We have Amari Abdullah Muhammad. The black woman is the best that Allah has to offer the black man. The black woman is the black man's heaven here on earth. That's right.
That's right.
Marcel X. Boyce again. Jesus in the scripture stated to his mother, I'm about my Father's work. Teach them the truth of both peoples,
That's right.
the black and the white. Yes, beautiful. Marcel X again. Allah said everything is a book, so your character, actions, and deeds are what your spouse or significant other is reading. And lastly, we have another question. Brother Jonah Simmons, he says, and this is the brother who posed a question about a hindrance, interracial dating be a hindrance. He says, if I'm mixed, black with Indian, you original, brother, that's me, does that mean I can only marry a mixed woman in the nation? If I'm mixed, black with Indian, does that mean I can only marry a mixed woman in the nation?
Okay, we have when you come into the nation, you have to, one of the things that you do, you write a letter, what we call our Saviour's letter. And then you have to recite something called student enrollment. And one of the questions in the student enrollment is, what is the population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America and all over the planet Earth? And we're taught that the answer to that is the population of the original nation is 17 million. With the 2 million Indians makes 19 million. All over the planet Earth is 4,400,000,000. So the entire Aboriginal family, which includes the so-called Indian, it includes the so-called Native American Indian, it includes, our Asian family, it absolutely includes our Aboriginal indigenous family that we now call Mexicans and Guatemalans and all of that. And of course it includes the original man, the first man to ever walk this earth and that created the earth itself, the black man. So we actually outnumber the Caucasian 11 to 1.
That's right.
11 to 1. So if you come into the Nation of Islam, listen, you're always free to marry whoever you want. You're always free to marry whoever you want. But one thing, the three things that are emphasized in the Nation of Islam is knowledge of self, knowledge of God, and knowledge of the devil. Now, if I tell you, brother, if you walk through that door, somebody's going to hit you in the head. And then you just go ahead and walk through that door and you get hit in the head. See, I'm not even going to waste my time telling you anything else. So once you get knowledge of the devil, but you still want to, get close to the devil, or you want to get, and you go against what you've been taught, that's completely up to you. It's not the Nation of Islam is not a dictatorship.
Right.
It's something that you have to want to do. You want to build a nation that looks like you. Talking about that 11 to 1, that 11, that Aboriginal, that 4,400,000,000, because that's one of the coldest tricks of our enemy, which is the Caucasian, who controls your social media, controls your television, controls your newspaper, is that they have you to think that there's this big difference between the black man and the so-called Indian, the black man and the so-called Asian, and the black man and and many black people fall for that. Because they want to keep us divided. So it's not this stringent, it's not some cult, it's not some weird stuff where, you're this, so I got... That's actually the work of Yaqub.
That's right.
Do some studying, some accurate studying, because it's a lot of funny style interpretations of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But ask a believer in the Nation of Islam about Yaqub and how he went about making the white man. It's the reason why this is a multi-trillion-year-old planet Earth, and we're a multi-trillion-year-old people, but the white man only, as scientifically proven, has only been around 6,000 years. That's because he is a made man. Not made man like Italian mobsters, but a made man meaning somebody went and made him. And that was a process that they went through where they married certain people together in order to create this watered-down, weak-boned, weak-blooded thing. So it's not just based on the color of your skin or what your immediate background is. It's, are you Aboriginal? You Aboriginal? Cool. So we got that covered. Do you want to build a nation for your people, the Aboriginal people of this earth? Cool. You got that? Okay. Do you know the knowledge of self, devil, and God? You do? Cool. It's got that. Let's go. That's it. And you willing to fight. You willing to, and when I say fight, I don't mean just carnal fighting, but you willing to do the work necessary to better yourself and get in touch with your nature and then build a nation. That's what this is. It ain't about, oh, you know, you can only marry this and marry that and all of that. It ain't that kind of ball game in the Nation of Islam. But the more you watch NationTown TV, the more you tune in, you'll get a better understanding of it, dear brother. And I thank you for asking questions,
Yes.
because this man right here, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is known to say to ask questions until you get an understanding. So we love questions at NationTown TV. But right now what I'm going to get into is the courtship manual real quick, and we're going to close out. And then, of course, we always strive to hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because remember, what we're talking about is courtship in this world and going against the propaganda of this world that tells you to hate yourself, that tells you that, you know, the grass is greener on the other side with Becky and Brad. All of that, you dealing with actually learning who you are and loving who you are, especially when you see it in the opposite sex. So in the Nation of Islam, we have a comprehensive courtship manual, and we're going to go over a few points real quick, family. First of all, as it says here, dealing with egocentric expectations in courtship and marriage. And it says, in our egocentric society, couples often marry because they hope to receive from a spouse more than they did as singles. But unless both partners give instead of take, their love will die of malnutrition. Children use people as objects. They believe that people in the world exist only to make them happy. As we grow older, we are supposed to become as godlike as possible. One way to do this is by imitating his qualities of compassion and giving. And then we have some people don't fulfill a partner's needs because they assume the partner has the same needs and feelings that they do. Instead of doing only what pleases us, we should learn what a partner wants and try to provide it. Someone whose gifts and efforts are seldom appreciated may not be giving a partner what he or she really wants. Good communication, patience, and a willingness to acknowledge someone else's differences from us is necessary in order to find out what that person's true desire is. Appreciating differences. Everyone wants to be appreciated and to feel unique and special. We make people feel this way by asking them to share memories, experiences, feelings, and ideas with us, then show that we treasure them. We are able to do this most easily when we believe that someone else's uniqueness enriches the tapestry of our lives and allow us to bond closer with them. Instead of trying to get someone to fit our image, we can learn about and appreciate a partner for who he is or she is. Many women marry men who they hope to change. Men marry women hoping the woman will not change and will accept the men as they are forever. They often end up in a tug of war where the women try to change the men into partners the men never want to be. And then lastly, one more point from the courtship manual. It is hard to accept a partner if we don't feel secure about ourselves. There go that knowledge of self. Because differences symbolize separation and incompatibility to many people. The more insecure people are, the more they feel threatened by differences, and the harder it is to be close to a partner who is dissimilar. A secure woman can love the fact that her husband enjoys reading mathematics even though he hates it. When he does what makes him happy, she is happy. They can agree to disagree about politics if they have other philosophies and causes on which to agree. Their differences can even lead to interesting conversations as they learn from each other and share opposing points of view. And keep in mind, these differences that we're talking about, of the difference between Aboriginal people. Because even though we all may be black, brown, Indian, whatever the case may be, you know, we all come from different walks of life. So that's the difference that we're talking about, not the difference in skin color or race. But we're talking about the subtle differences that we may have in personality. And last but not least, we always strive to hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the beautiful brother who has been giving us, as they say in the streets, giving us this game. It ain't a game, no, but giving us this beautiful knowledge. And he's going to teach a little bit about worshiping no God but Allah. Because remember, what we talked about at first was the fact that we are focusing too much on the lives of celebrities because they've been made God besides God. So we're paying more attention to the domestic life of Jada Pinkett and Will Smith and Beyonce and Jay-Z and how they handle their marriages, as opposed to more righteous examples that are not propped up in front of us by our enemy. So what we're going to hear here is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talking about the importance, even in relationships, of worshiping no God but Allah.
Yeah. So when I got married, I didn't know how to give my wife the duty of a real husband. Because a wife satisfied a human need, a biological need, and a psychological need, but she never could go deep enough to satisfy the soul, because the soul longs for God. You got to understand what's happening in your life. So men look like they're selfish. They look like they don't care, sisters. But it's not that they don't care. Their soul is in flight, searching for something that you can never give a man. There's not a woman born that can rest a man's soul. His soul can only rest in his creator. And there's not a man born that can rest a woman's soul. Her soul can only rest in the creator. Oh, yeah. So unless God is in your life, you soon tire of each other. Yes, sir. Yeah, brother. Unless the worship of the Creator is real in your life, you soon become disenchanted with each other. When I found my Lord, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I found what I was looking for. Listen to me good now. You mean he's God? Hold it right there. I found a father that I never had.
Yes, sir. Right.
I found somebody that loved black people more than any other being I had ever known. And I found in him a truth that satisfied my soul. But the more I grew and the more I understood, the more I knew that I had to go past my teacher to the source. There my soul could rest. He didn't teach me to take him as a God beside Allah. He didn't teach me to worship him. He said, follow me. Follow me. And he said, to Allah alone do I submit and seek refuge. There comes a time in the life of a man of God where he must give pain to those around him. Not that he gives them pain, but circumstances of his life gives them pain. But if he's to grow into the pure worship of God, he cannot emotionally get caught up in the pain of those whom he loves. He must grow beyond their pain to see what does God want. Elijah Muhammad was that kind of man. And that's why he was so successful. I want to be that kind of man. Not because I want to be that because I want to be great. I want to be that because that's the only way you can survive in an adverse world. You cannot set up a partner or a rival with God. You in the white man's world. But the white man is only a temporary power. You can't bow down to him. You can't make him think he's a God beside God simply because he has some power in his hand that he don't have any control over. You got to find God and don't rest until you do. For when you find him, then you're free at last. Free at last.
All praise is due to Allah. That's the man himself, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, teaching that, I talked about visual aids. What better visual aid to have than Almighty God, Allah himself? Now you say, well, wait a minute, I ain't never seen God. Have you not seen your brother? Have you not seen your sister? What are you looking for when you look at your brother and your sister? Are you looking at your brother and your sister looking for an entanglement? Or are you looking for Godhood? If you're looking for Godhood, you're going to find Godhood. You're going to find their best part. If you're looking for entanglement, you're looking for the worst part, that's what you're going to find. And then you're going to base your own relationships and engage them based on that criterion. We prefer to go off of this criterion so we can build that black nation. Brothers and sisters, I appreciate y'all chiming in, showing us love with your questions and comments. I'm going to leave you, as I greeted you in the beginning, in the words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Be safe. Be smart. Be safe. Stay sheltered in place if necessary. Wear your mask. Wear your mask. It ain't going to hurt. You ain't that cute, nobody. Nobody want to see you. No, I'm just playing. Assalamu alaikum, family. Be safe.
Buy black.
And buy black. Black Dollar Days, family.
I was told to deliver this message.